Guys, welcome to another great episode of the 10 Minutes with Boston Chris podcast. I am your host, Boston Chris. And this week we are super excited to bring to you the man himself, Mr. Jaret Reddick, from the band Bowling for Soup. I want to read a little bit about Jaret, and then we're going to get right into the conversation. Many successful artists attempt to quote unquote cross over or try something new at some point in their career. So it wasn't a huge surprise back in 2022 when Jaret Ray Reddick made the announcement that he was releasing a solo album. But country? Well, fast forward a couple years and the frontman for the Grammy nominated pop punk icons Bowling for Soup has dug his Chuck Taylors deep into the world of Texas country, and there doesn't seem to be anyone who is surprised by this. Now, Jaret's voice is unmistakable. It's somewhat hard to escape it. From Bowling for Soup songs like 1985 and Girl All the Bad Guys Want and High School Never Ends, to the theme song of Disney's smash hit cartoon Phineas and Ferb, where he also played a character on that show, he has been the voice of everyone's favorite pizza-selling mouse, Chuck E. Cheese, for over a decade, and also co-hosts the widely successful Adobe radio show and podcast Rockstar Dad Show. Man, we are super excited to talk to the one and only Jaret Ray Reddick right here on the 10 Minutes with Boston Chris podcast. Y'all check it out. Man, we got Jaret Reddick here on the show today. Jaret, how you feeling today, man? I know you've been a little bit under the weather.
I'm doing good. It's a bounce back day for me, so which is lucky because it's been a busy day. But yeah, I'm feeling good. It's good to be here. It's my very first interview on this platform, actually.
Nice, awesome. We're a trivia question. That's what's up. Hopefully you'll like
There you
it and
go.
continue it on. I'll definitely let you know a little bit more about the platform afterwards if you're interested, because it's kind of cool.
You know what, man? I tried. It's one of those things. I'm 52, and I try to keep up.
I feel
And
you.
there was this whole deal where it was like, we're gonna use your Discord to drive your fan club, and your fan club to
Yep.
drive your thing, and the blog and even my fans were like, "What is happening?"
Right.
So I don't know. I may sit this one out at least for the time being, but we'll see. We'll see. I do have one. I've had this Discord for a long time.
It's funny
Um,
because I'm 47. I've had a live community on Twitch since 2018, and it was
yeah.
2021. 3 years of them trying to convince me into a Discord before I finally got one.
Right. Yeah.
And I still
And
don't know
that's just
nothing about it, to be honest.
right. Yeah, that's just it too, man. It's like I have a Twitch, but I really just use it sort of on this one thing that I do, and it's just to message during the show. So,
Yeah, I
but
feel you.
but I'm happy to be here.
So first serious question, it's really not. What's your favorite drink right now, man? What are you drinking lately?
Uh, man, I like alcoholic beverage.
Whatever you think is your favorite drink right now.
I drink three things in the world,
Okay.
and this it's been narrowed down over time. I used to drink a lot of Diet Coke, like a lot,
Mm,
like I had a problem. It was like two Route 44s a day from
wow,
Sonic. Yeah, but so I've now been off that for almost 2 years.
that's tough too.
So yeah. Oh, apparently it's harder to quit diet soda than it is to quit cigarettes. I never
Yeah,
smoked, but
it's
that's what
it's
they say.
tough for sure.
But I did it, and yeah. So I drink Miller Lite, I drink iced tea, unsweet, and I drink water, and that is literally the only three things that I ever drink.
Let's go. Probably wondering like what's that about? It's just part of our theme song. We have to ask. So,
I love it.
what is he drinking? Plus, I think it maybe breaks the ice a little bit, and makes people a little more comfortable.
Sure.
So let's get into the crux of the stuff now. We're going to have about 30 or 45 minutes with Jaret today, which, again, thank you so much for coming on the show and being my guest today. I
Happy
guess
to
the
be here.
first thing I want to ask you is what's your earliest memory within music that you can remember as a kid, I imagine?
I guess that would have to be, riding in the car, my parents singing. It's funny. There's so many moments in that movie, uh, um, um, Vacation, National Lampoon's Vacation,
Yep.
that are like it just must have been like when he wrote that. There just must have been just these. these little things that parents did back then, because when we watch it, my brother and I, just like, oh my God, that's our family. It's, and I guess, it's very observational, but that my parents were the harmonizing in the car, singing along to every word, and it's funny as back then, I was born in 72, and so you didn't really have anything to do in the car. You just were in the car, and
Mm-hmm.
so singing along with them and whatever was on, whatever they were listening to, really, I guess, was my initial training. Because my mother sang harmony to everything, everything,
Wow,
and now I do that.
that's
But I
awesome.
remember as a kid, I remember telling her, hey, you're singing it wrong. Like, that's not what they're doing. And later in my life, it's just one of those adult moments where you go, oh, she taught me to harmonize. She didn't
Yeah,
even mean to.
that's amazing. So, what were your parents' influences? Because you got two different people in the car with you. I imagine they
Yeah.
didn't align completely, right?
Well, it was really interesting because they were 10 years apart and
Wow.
both had already led adult lives, and they were both second marriages. And it's interesting, but they sort of leveled in at this, that the palette was the Eagles, Donna Summer, Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, Neil Diamond, you know, uh,
Jeez.
and a little bit of Kenny Rogers thrown in, and those are like the really big ones. And it's so funny, again, as I look back on that, I can see the influence of each one of those artists on what it is I do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and it's a crazy thing. I hated being in that car all the time. At the time they were both smokers, and I hated that, and just sitting in the car was boring. I hated that. I got car sick. I was a little car sick fat kid, and I hated that. And but again, I guess that was sort of like my 6 or 7 year boot camp, because I certainly came out of it with a lot of influences, with a lot of knowledge, and the ability to literally harmonize with anything.
It's very cool that you can recognize now the influence within your music that you picked up in the car too. Like,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, it is. It's because, again, like, if you're a fan of Bowling for Soup or my country stuff, uh, I'm a storyteller,
Yep.
and a lot of the artists that I just mentioned to you, that's what they did. I mean, Willie Nelson, especially Kenny Rogers. I mean, Kenny Rogers literally, sometimes his songs were almost prose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, he was almost reading you a story at the time. If you think back to, The Gambler, or Coward of the County, and those songs that were so big for me as a kid. And but again, even Willie Nelson and Waylon, and but Dolly Parton. I remember, I remember mom singing "Coat of Many Colors" at the top
Mm.
of her lungs, and I could picture it in my head. And that's what I am always when I'm writing. And even when I'm writing with other artists, I don't ever want to cop out. Like, I want to make sure that we're painting a picture,
Right.
that, like reading a book, like, I want whoever's listening to it to be able to picture it in their head, in their own way, like what it looks like to them. That song looks a certain way, and and that's, again, I think that's from that exposure to those
Man,
artists.
it's awesome to hear you say that. I've been blessed to interview a lot of songwriters over my time doing this, and I've always heard them say I want people to picture it in their head or feel it in their heart, one of the two,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, or both.
or both. Right,
And
right.
yeah, like, and the thing is that, and the other thing is, you want them, you know and this is not really, I don't think this is your goal, but now that I've been doing it long enough, it's my hope that this is what happens. It's like, you want 10, 15, 20 years after they heard that song the first time, you want them to see, smell, and be able to touch what it was they were
Yeah.
feeling the first time they
Remember
heard it.
where they were when they heard it. That's right. It's a
Exactly. And it's
timestamp.
like,
It really is.
music is crazy for me. It's like, if there's certain records, if I put them on, I can, I know, like, where I was in my truck, and where I was going, and who I
Mm-hmm.
was hanging out with, and what the, where, what that time, what we were up to. And they're really cool. It's cool how music can do that. I don't know, maybe food is another thing that can do that, but I don't really know many things in the world like
Yeah.
music that can
I
just
I
do that
think
for you.
really it's just to attribute it to something. Extreme world events is another thing, when the Challenger exploded, when
Sure.
JFK passed, But other than that, it's music, it's songs that make the most indelible mark on our existence. Um,
Definitely.
Getting into the music, you were born and grew up in North Texas,
Yep.
and so I mean, country music kind of it rules the airwaves here in Texas. It always has. So,
Hmm.
as a young kid trying to come up in a different genre, how difficult was that for you to make it nationally, out not in country from Texas?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was very, obviously we have a ton of different kinds of music here, but especially
Absolutely,
where I lived at the time, Wichita Falls, country was king, and it was very hard for us to get noticed. And we started in '94, and yeah, I don't even think they had the term pop punk was a thing until
no,
2002 or 2003. So we didn't even know what we were doing, and we didn't know who the bands were that even sounded like us, because there certainly wasn't anybody here.
no,
And so it was, what we really did was we made it, we got shows by just being ourselves. All of a sudden people started to recognize that we were funny, and so
hmm
we started getting bigger shows because rap rock bands and new metal bands would put us in front of 900 people, because they were like, man, you got to see these guys, they're hilarious. And that is really how it kind of started to go. And then as the genre started to expand, and people the sound of that, of what it was we were doing, became to started to actually catch on. We were already living down here in the Dallas area, and touring nationally on our own by then, and had really kind of started to develop our own following. But it was a lot of work, that's for sure. It's a lot of playing to nobody back then.
yeah, tens and tens and tens of people, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, teens that we played it, teens of people all the time.
So, I don't want to talk too much about those days. I just kind of wanted to see what your mentality was as far as trying to get out of here. Because there's a lot of bands, a lot of really good rock and roll bands in Texas that just struggle because of how inundated country music is here, which is not necessarily a bad thing because country's great, but I would
Yeah.
love to see some of these other genres in Texas shine as well. But let's talk about your country release. Just Woke Up is the name of the album. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've charted 3 singles off of this record, right?
Yeah, I charted 3 singles off Just Woke Up, and I'm on to my first single post that album now, and it's probably going to be my biggest one. So
Yeah,
it's definitely moving in a forward direction.
the new song. We will definitely get into that. But I wanted to know what kind of challenges you've faced so far in trying to switch up your genre, kind of midstream. You're still doing the stuff with the band and touring
Yeah.
worldwide and stuff like that. So this is kind of a dual threat now. So what's the
Yeah.
strategy behind it, and what challenges have you faced?
Well, I think the biggest challenge was myself at first. Like I think I expected gatekeepers. I think people to go, whoa, 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 hold on, funny guy, pop punk sensation. You're not going to come in here into our world and that's not what I got. And instead, if anyone listening or watching knows anything about Texas country, it is the most welcoming genre of music I think maybe on the planet.
Absolutely agree.
Uh, and I have to say that the biggest thing about it, that's what really drew me in to want to do more. I did this record during the pandemic, and I wanted to play some shows, but I was like, yeah, I'll play some shows here and there, and I'll get like just a guy here that can do this and a guy, but I my first show was insane, and the second show was amazing, and then we had a couple of just again playing in front of teams of people, and but I managed to put together this amazing band of dudes that really want to do this and are
Hmm
into it, and that I really love being around. And then backtrack to the fact that the clubs and the DJs and the press, and more importantly, or I guess as important as the fans, the artists welcomed me. And I was like, I want to be a part of this. This is me. I'm a positive person. I love when people win. And I'm like, man, if this is this is for me. So it became quickly this thing where it's like, okay, I guess I'm doing two things now,
Mm-hmm.
and so I do both. I do both full time, and so I have a very understanding wife,
I would
uh,
hope so.
and uh, and a very
uh,
supportive bunch of kids, and three very supportive kids, and yeah, and two amazing bands
yeah.
who each of them root for the other one. It's funny. My drummer and my bass player is the same in both bands, but my drummer in Bowling for Soup comes to see the country band, and the guys in the country band come to see Bowling for Soup. So it's nice to just have support, and that's a big factor too.
And to be fair, you do it a lot more than two things full time, and I want to get
Yeah.
into that in a little while. But man, one of the most busy people I've ever seen, and I wanted to talk about your songwriting and how it differs, if at all, between genre. Do you feel like, let me ask it like this: do you notice anything, like any noticeable differences when you're writing for country versus writing for Bowling for Soup? Are there differences?
It's really not. I mean, I guess short answer, no. Long-winded answer, I'll sort of explain. But all of my songs kind of start off sounding country because they all start on an acoustic guitar
Okay,
with just me.
right.
And so if I'm just sitting there strumming cowboy chords, and which is just open, just what into the neck chords, then it's going to sort of have that sort of feel anyway. And then once we start to put the drums and the octave guitars and the mean grit and all that into it, it starts to sound like Bowling for Soup. I think where it differs writing wise is just lyrically. Like I can go pretty much as far into the feels as I want to, or am comfortable doing in the countryside of things.
So it's just content
Whereas
related then.
yes, in
Yeah.
Bowling for Soup, I'm going to give you feelings, but more often than not, I'm going to spin it and try to make you happy about it,
Right.
or make you laugh. Where it's almost like one of those things, like my day sucked, but this was hilarious.
Okay.
Whereas in the countryside of things, it's like I'm going to tell you that sometimes I'm not very happy, and here's one of the reasons why. Or
Hmm.
this is a story about my family, and that we're not every other family, but we're who we are. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's the real main difference. The actual writing process itself is pretty much the same.
So basically, the end of the story changes. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, the outcome is a little bit different.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah. So do you feel like your prior success in a different genre helps you or hurts you when trying to move to Texas country?
Well, I mean, I definitely think that it's a help. I mean, because I think I run into people that are fans of the band everywhere I go. So, I definitely wouldn't say that I had to start from square one. Now, it also doesn't translate perfectly. Not every Bowling for Soup fan is going to support the country
Right.
thing. Again, I'm as we have been saying this whole interview, sometimes we have 10 people show up at our country shows, and I'm very thankful for all 10. Um, but I mean, I haven't worried about people showing up at a Bowling for Soup show in 25 years.
Right.
So that's a big sort of advantage, though, is that at least we get the opportunity. A lot of times we get an opportunity to come in and put some people into the room, and then a lot of times the promoter will see us and go, okay, well, you're not ready for this, so obviously not as many people showed up, so we're going to try this. But in the last couple of months, the crowds are getting bigger, and
Mm-hmm.
it really is kind of starting to catch on.
And it will because you're fantastic at what you're doing, even
Thank you,
here in
man.
Texas, man. I'm digging it so much. I can't wait to talk about my favorite song on the country record here in a minute. But I wanted to delve on something I caught you saying about your hardcore fan base that you have with Bowling for Soup. A lot
Yeah,
of times when you have those hardcore fans, man, and you put something out that's a little bit different, they that vibe can be broken. Is that
yeah.
something you worry about as an artist?
No, because I've been doing this so long. I've done three or four other side bands in the past, and
Mm-hmm.
the Bowling for Soup fans understand. that I'm not trying to make a replacement. Like I'm not even I don't even take time away
Mm.
from Bowling for Soup to do any of this. All of it, even all of the country is built around Bowling for Soup stuff. And and I will say sometimes a Bowling for Soup show, it's happened a couple of times where we get offered something and I can't say no and I have to cancel a country show. But at the same time, I've had some things where one's come up and it's pretty good. And I'm like, man, I committed to this and I'm gonna do this country thing. So um but no, the fans are wonderful. More often than not, I get, hey, I'm not a country fan, love what you're doing, whatever, man. I'll keep following Bowling for
Yeah.
Soup. But I also get a lot of, hey, man, I hate country, but I love this. Maybe
Yep.
I like country now.
Right.
So, and I always tell them, I'm just like, hey, Social Distortion put out a country record. Like you don't have to hate it just because there's I'm putting a label on it so other people will come see me, not you. Like you just pretend it's me.
I think
And come
at the
on,
end of the day, I think people just need to calm down when it comes to lines. To be honest, I think
yeah,
everybody just needs like clear cut boxes, and they need to be in one. And why does an artist have to be in the box if a listener doesn't have to be? Right? Like I can listen
yeah,
to country, and then later on I can listen to heavy metal, and tomorrow I might be digging the Andrews Sisters. Like I'm not,
yeah.
as a consumer, I don't put myself in a box. So why should I put an artist into the same box? It doesn't make
Well, and
sense.
and when music first became popular, in the way that it is in the world that we live in, artists did go from back and forth. People
Absolutely.
would put out a country record or a rhythmic record or a rock record or whatever, and you have bands like like I said, the Eagles, who now you would have, they would be a rock band or a country band or whatever, and that was more rampant back in the day. But you've got artists out, the big artists that are doing it, that I think, obviously I just saw that Post Malone's about to do a country tour, and that guy can sing,
Man,
and I think that's going to be really, really
yeah,
cool,
he's incredible. He's incredible. Very
and
talented.
I mean, the guy, he may be a genius, I
Yeah.
mean, like that. I'm serious. Like I said, actually, when that guy came out, I was like, this might be the closest thing to Kurt Cobain we've had,
Yep.
as far as like guys that are going to just get in there and just shake it up.
Yeah, somebody just
And
needs to put bubble wrap on that man and protect
I
him.
know,
You
right?
know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I know. Yeah, it seems like he's got a good team of people around him, and I think he's kind of got his shit together too.
It
So,
looks like it.
uh,
It
yeah,
looks like it.
I agree. He does look really good.
Yep. So yeah, I wanted to talk about my favorite song from Just Woke Up, and it's one of the good ones. Is co-written by you and the incredible Zach Malloy.
Hmm.
Now, I love this song because it talks about someone in your life who has made his or her mark. And I mean, most of us out there can relate to a song like this. We all have that person in our life. So, how did this song come to be? I would love to hear kind of the story behind it. And can you
Yeah,
tell us who the song is about, perhaps?
I can. It's the first verse is about my best friend Linus, and then the second verse is about Bowling for Soup. And so now that you know that, when you go back and hear it, you'll hear it. Like driving all night, waking up in the van. Uh, and so yeah, it's a song about those people that I hold dear. That I'm really, really lucky. I have amazing people in my life, and so my buddy uh Stacy Jones, who, gosh, he does so much stuff. He was in Letters to Cleo. He's in Matchbox 20. He's Miley Cyrus's music director. He's just a busy, busy guy. And he just always used to say, "Yeah, man, that guy's one of the good ones." And so I was like, "Man, that's such a good name for a song." And so, me and Zach wrote that. About he kind of started me down the path, and I was like, "Let me go lyrically on this one." And as I sent him the lyrics, sort of, he was just like, "Oh man, this is about Linus, and oh, this is about the band." And so, um, yeah, it's a special song to me too, and I think it's probably my favorite song on the album as well. Up Royal Family just was such an emotional song for me to put out into the
Mm-hmm.
world, but when we play one of the good ones, I get really excited about that one live.
So, man, I have my outline. I always go off of it because of stuff that my guests will say. And I want to touch on something you just got to, and that's vulnerability. Do you feel
Yeah.
like you are allowed to be more vulnerable in country? Is that kind of an outlet for you as well?
100%, and not really allowed. Um,
I guess that's
Yes.
not the right word. Yeah, just
Yeah,
but
I
you're
mean
able
it's
to be.
able to be. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and honestly, I don't think that it's like Bowling for Soup fans per se that would put that gate around me. It's really
Right,
me.
right.
It's I've always been sort of like, well, I'll put songs out like Turbulence or When We Die that have, definitely a lot of emotion in them, and there's a lot coming from the heart, and there's a lot of that. But I also understand what Bowling for Soup is to people, and we're that thing that you listen to at the end of the day when you've had a really terrible day, and we're the ones that are there to cheer you up.
Yep.
Now we're there for you no matter what, and we've got songs that run the gamut of all of it. We've got angry songs and sad songs and happy songs and all that. But you know, I feel like in the country thing, I don't really have that. I don't guess. I guess it could kind of be called a responsibility, but again, it's one that I put on myself. It's again, it's not that I think when I write an emotional song, Bowling for Soup fans have never gone, "Oh man, we really wish you'd be funny," or you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
everybody appreciates it, but yeah, I definitely feel more free to be a little bit more vulnerable in the country thing.
That's awesome. And I don't know how many people talk to you about your voice, but I definitely want to delve into that. You have one of the most
Sure,
unmistakable voices in music, in my opinion. And
thank you, man.
I want to talk about your voice as an instrument now. What strategies over the years have you cultivated in making your voice such a signature? Is that something you think about when you're recording or writing or anything like that?
It became something, I guess, after we had gotten signed and started. For me, really, I was just sort of trying to figure out what the way that what I sounded like, because to back up a little bit, I was a theater kid. So when I really wasn't ever a singer. So I only started singing when I was 17 because my heavy metal band couldn't find another singer, and I played drums, but our bass player could play drums, and we knew a guy that could play bass. And
Hmm.
so I was just like, well, I'll just step out front and just try this. But
That's called the
during
precursor
those,
to Craigslist, by the way, you guys out
I
there.
know, right? Well, and during those times though, like I was just doing impressions of whoever it was. So I would just mimic whoever it was I was singing. So when I started doing original music, which wasn't until I started the band right before Bowling for Soup. So 2 years before Bowling for Soup, I didn't really have an idea as to what it was my sound was, like what sometimes, where to put that grit that I have a little bit. But backing up to the reason I said I was a theater kid was because I what I didn't understand was is that I already knew how to breathe. So I had already learned to breathe through my diaphragm from being on stage and being able to act, because when you're acting, especially in a stage situation, your nerves and adrenaline will sometimes push that oxygen out of your lungs. And so if you
Hmm.
don't learn to breathe from your diaphragm, you can't get air. And then all of a sudden you sound winded and you're not supposed to, and so it's very important and so learning to breathe was something I spent a lot of time on in that. So it never occurred to me that I was using all of these things, that all of a sudden I could sing all of these insane things, and I just got better and better. And so yeah, I definitely developed what I consider to be my sound, and I I know what it is. I know what it is I sound like, and and I definitely can tell, like, if I hear something like a commercial or something, it's pretty obvious to me that, like, if they're not mimicking me, they're mimicking somebody that sounds like me,
That's
because I
right.
like people will call me and go, "Dude, is that you on this such and such commercial?" And I'll be like, "No, but I heard it. I thought it was me."
So yeah, I just have to mention that because a lot of people out there who are consumers of music don't really have experience from the studio side of things.
Yeah,
I don't think fans out there realize how big artists are when it comes to their vocals and how important it is as an instrument, especially
yeah.
from a studio environment. I mean, when you're in the studio, you're trying to get the right verbiage, the right intonation. Everything has to be perfect with the
Yeah.
melody. And yeah, I love to hear singers talk about their instrument.
It
It's
takes a long it takes a lot of time. I my thing is that I try always to never be an overthinker, because the minute I get in my head about something, then I'm never going to be happy with it. So I don't know that anybody else is. And so But the other thing about me that I think you'll probably find interesting if you talk to a lot of singers is I do not treat my voice any different ever. So I don't warm up. I do
Wow.
not drink warm liquids. I don't do if I'm sick, I don't put honey or lemon in there. I don't do anything. I actually feel like my body goes the opposite direct. If I start to do something that I don't do all the time,
Mm-hmm.
it my body actually I feel like it like pushes it away. Like it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want that. And so I drink ice cold water all the time, which singers are supposed to drink warm water. I don't drink warm tea before I sing. I don't, none of that. And I can't explain it, but my range is bigger than it's ever been. I can sing higher at 52 than I could ever my whole life. I'm like, my breathing is still great. I don't really lose my voice, my singing voice, even if I lose my talking voice when I'm sick. I've never canceled a show because of my voice being gone before.
Amazing, man. Very
Uh,
blessed. Very blessed.
knock on wood,
Yeah.
and I realize that that's a gift. I totally and I don't take it for granted at all. But I think sometimes, speaking of like getting in the heads, like you know, how it is. Like I mean, I went to school. I studied marketing and psychology, and there's these things that your head can do to you, psychosomatic things where you can you know, you're over there like all of a sudden making this tea, and then you're just worried about it. And
Yep.
it's like I go out there drinking a Miller Lite, and adrenaline pushes me through, and somehow it works.
Imposter syndrome, man. It's horrible. It is horrible. I deal with it every single day, and I never really cared about that kind of thing until I was creating content and doing live streams and podcasting and things like that. It's crazy. You can have all this confidence, but then your own self is just breaking that confidence down all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's yeah. I think you gotta, for me, I just always just assume that whatever I'm doing is the best thing in the world. Like I'm
mm-hmm.
like I just am like, yeah, this is gonna be amazing, and I just go about it that way, and
Do you speak it
I
out
can look
loud?
back.
Do you actually
Uh,
speak the
I
words?
mean, if there's people around me, I do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I don't have a running dialogue. So this is an interesting conversation that happens with me and my wife all the time. She says she has like a narrator in her
Mm-hmm.
head, and I don't have that. So
I
like,
do
I don't hear.
sometimes. I do sometimes.
Okay, but you've
Yeah.
had this conversation, right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah. So I don't have it. So like, if I think something, it just is. It just is. Like
Mm,
it's not in words. I don't hear a voice saying it.
right.
And she's like, "Oh my God, there's like this person. It sounds like me. It's narrating my life all the time, and like this is what's gonna happen, and this." I'm just like, "Yeah, I don't hear
So what your
anything."
wife is talking about happens to me whenever everything's quiet around me, right? So like
Yeah.
it drives my wife crazy because I have to have noise all the time, and it drowns
Right.
out that voice for me. It
Right.
sounds extremely like psychotic, but it's really not. It's
Oh
just
man, I get it,
yeah.
dude. I totally understand.
So, man, we talked a little bit about how many things Jaret does, or how many things he has done over the course of his career. And as a content creator, I look up to you for those reasons, man. Your schedule is so inspiring. But not just because of how successful you are in things, but because of the wide array of things that you do. From songwriting and producing to world tours, making music for Phineas and Ferb, and um, shoot, being the voice for Chuck E. Cheese, working in video games. You have your own podcast. Like all this
Yeah.
stuff is happening in your life. Where do you find the time and passion for all of these different things?
Well, I guess it's that I don't really have passion for anything else other than, I mean, if I'm not with my family or sitting with my dogs, like I'd rather be up here creating something or making somebody laugh, or I mean, again, I like to hang out with my friends and just kind of but I don't really have any hobbies. Like there's not anything that I don't get excited to go fishing or any. I'll fish,
Mm-hmm.
and I play golf a few times a year maybe, but even then, like it's not. It's almost just something where I'm making myself get outside because I've been locked in here for 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think it's just that I just really enjoy creating things. I enjoy making music. I enjoy making people smile, and that's why I feel like social media wise, like it's just I think there's a lot of people my age that complain about it. And I'm like, man, TikTok was made for me. I love making people laugh in 15 seconds or less,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Or whatever it is. And so, it's just a good, I just enjoy it. And it's what I love to do.
It's funny you say that because I have a social media schedule for short form content too. Like we do podcasting and gaming, and I've done audiobooks and ASMR and all that stuff. Just trying to, give people a different form of content. But like I have a short schedule too where I do a different joke every day, but it might be a different style of joke, maybe a dad joke or a pun or
Sure.
a one liner. But I've done a joke a day for almost 3 years now on short
Hell
form
yeah.
content. Yeah. And it's funny how much negativity you get just from trying to make people laugh. It's
Sure. Yeah.
super
But I
weird.
mean, that's just it though.
Mm-hmm.
It's therein lies the thing. I mean, I seem like I have my shit together, but you know, I'm a mental health advocate, and I suffer from anxiety and depression, and I see two therapists, and so I don't. It sucks that I have hundreds of thousands of followers throughout all of these social media outlets, and like one dude can ruin my day,
Yep.
and but I've gotten so much better about it. But I used to, man, I can be really really mean, because I'm fast, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
and
Quick
I
witted.
grew
My
up with
wife
it.
says that all the time. You're too
Yeah.
quick witted for your own good.
Well, and I grew up with an older brother, and again, I was a fat kid. I had to survive, and
Mm-hmm.
so the way I survived was being funnier than everybody, and so I if someone messes with me, I'll type it out, but most of the time I erase it these days. It's just like it's just not worth it. But
Yep.
yeah, you gotta have thick skin to live in that world, man, and it's you just can't make everybody happy all the time.
I got four more questions. You got time?
Sure, man, let's do it. Yeah, this
All
is
right.
great. I'm having a blast.
Awesome. Me too, man. I appreciate you again. So, yeah,
Sure.
we talked about your world tour that I believe you just got back from, right? You were in Ireland and other places recently.
We're kind of just starting actually. So this was all stuff on the back end of
The
of
last
you know
tour.
the last tour. So we actually start our world tour in like 2 weeks. I believe it starts on like the 17th or 18th, and yeah, that'll be it's the whole United States. It's going to take us a few months to do that because we do it in. I'm a dad, so we and so is Gary, so is Rob. We try not to be gone longer than 2 weeks at a time, and then we're home for a while, then back out. Now, when we're coming home for 2 or 3 weeks on the weekends, I'm doing country,
Yep.
and so is Rob. So, staying busy, but and then we'll hit Australia, Japan. We'll be back in the UK, the whole UK in February, and so yeah, it's kind of just really getting rolling. But we were just in Bowling for Soup, just in Italy, UK, and a few shows in Ireland. We owed Ireland a few things because we had not we skipped them the last two tours. So we were able to go over there with these festivals and had a great time.
So, all this busy, I guess the question I wanted to ask here is what's your favorite part of all this and what's your least favorite part of all this? Just the
Man,
madness that is Jaret Reddick.
yeah, I'll tell you, this is so simple that it's silly, but the thing that I hate the most is just the process of getting through the airport because we have so much stuff. We have I think 29 pieces of gear. Most of it's overweight. It's a real pain in the ass just to get checked in. And it's sort of like that thing where it's so much anxiety for me until we're on the other side of security. And that is my least favorite thing. I mean, I hate that worse than I hate being away from home, and I hate being away from home. Like I love my chair
Yeah.
and my dog in my lap, and he's 125 pounds, but he's a lap dog, and so um but again, the my favorite thing will always be just, I think it's the reaction that I see of people when they realize, let's say I start the song "Girl All the Bad Guys Want" and I hit the first three notes, and you just hear this reaction, and then you just watch every mouth in the room, however many people it is moving. uh I mean, that just never gets old.
The
It just
wrestling pop. That's what we call it, right? The wrestling
it
pop.
it's amazing. It's
Hmm.
like, it's like there are very few things in the world that feel like that I've experienced, and it's really hard to explain to people, but it's awesome.
All right, I'm going to add one quick follow up question in here on the signature song. How do you feel about signature songs? Do you ever get tired of playing them? Do you like? Is it like, because
No,
I know when artists have a big song like that, I mean, your entire show you're going to have people screaming that at you, right? Does that
right,
get
yeah.
old? Like just
I handle it like this. If somebody yells 1985 in the first couple of songs, or even during the first half of the show, I just stop and I go, "Hello, it's nice to meet you. We're a professional rock band, and we're going to play that song last because we
mhm.
don't want everybody to leave.
Right.
So you have plenty. You have time to run to the restroom or go get a drink, or hell, you can run to the car and take a nap. We'll be back in about 30 minutes, and
Right.
yeah, come back in about 30 minutes, and we'll be here." So, I deal with that kind of stuff, and it's that's all in good fun. You know, I think this, man. You know, if that's what got him there, then you give it to him and enjoy it. Like, why would you ever hate the thing? And I talk about this a lot. There's a lot of my friends who have one really big hit and they hate it
Yep.
because they hate that that's the identity of their band,
Right.
And we have a lot of hits, but we have one really big hit, and it's that's going to always be our thing. But at the same time, at least we have it.
Hmm.
At least they're there.
Yeah, it
We and
doesn't.
and they're
It doesn't matter how many hits you have. Like,
yeah.
we went to see Gene Watson. I've hung around Gene quite a bit, and of course, one of his bigger songs is "The Farewell Party." And I mean, the whole show, farewell party, and he doesn't get upset. And I mean, we're talking about a legend here who's got
Yeah.
dozens of hits, and this it's always the one song they're asking for.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've seen artists get extremely belligerent to fans,
Yeah. Right.
over their one hit being called for over and over again. Um, just a
Well,
reflection.
and
Go ahead.
let's in the artist's defense. I mean, audience members can be
Unruly about it, very much so. Yeah.
obnoxious,
Yes.
and
Hmm.
there is sort of a lot. Like, I do think that sometimes, my deal is that I do a lot of crowd work, and we do a lot of stand up comedy and stuff too. So if it happens, I can shut it down before it gets crazy. But I've been to shows where it just gets ridiculous. They'll start chanting it. They've got the
Yeah.
whole audience,
It's scary, man. It's very scary.
and it just So I definitely can understand. I don't think that anybody should get belligerent on their, but I've seen it, and again, sometimes, and especially, once they get alcohol in them, man.
Hmm.
I mean, you don't understand. You're up there in a very vulnerable place. You're literally a sitting duck,
Yep.
and there's nothing you can do about it.
Not just
And
that, but we're all human. Like that
Mhm.
artist might be having a really bad day, and just you hit him at the wrong point, and I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, I can understand. Like, you know what? I'm an artist. I have all of these other songs. Maybe learn a new song. If you like that one, chances are you're going to like
Yeah.
some of my other ones too. So
Yeah.
you came here to listen, so listen.
And I think it's important too for the art. I think sometimes the artist needs to take a breath and go, make eye contact with that person. They're singing all the songs. They're
Hmm.
excited to hear the big hit. And it's the reason they're there. And they don't. The audience member doesn't understand that hearing it second would really, really put a wrench in the show.
Hmm.
That, like,
Yeah.
that would be very anticlimactic if we
Never
open
put the
up with
main event on
1985.
first, man. Never put the
Yeah,
main
where are we
event on
going?
first. Yep. Absolutely. So let's talk about the new single. The new single is called Lone Stars, and it's rising on the Texas charts very, very quickly. Tell us a little bit about the song, how it came to be, and I always love to hear an artist talk about why a song is chosen as a single as well. If you could inform us of that.
Well, it's the first song I wrote since the record, since Just Woke Up came out, and I um I knew it was a single immediately. I mean, the minute I heard, honestly, that it was the demo and all that stuff was great, but the minute I was in the studio with Zach Malloy in Nashville, and I did the vocal there. And the minute I sung the chorus, I just was like, this song's a hit. I mean, it's a hit for me. Like this song should be a single, and I just knew it. And so I literally came back from that trip just going, I have a single ready. And they're like, oh, when's the new record coming out? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's just put this out. And I had every intention of trying to get an album out in June. It just makes more sense for me to wait till after this insanity of Bowling for Soup and release it next year when I can really focus on country. But it's a sappy love song, and it's about two people from Texas, two people from the Lone Star State, who will never be alone, never be Lone Stars as long as they've got each other. And it's got my little wordplay thing in there that I do, and just had I love this song so much. It's probably I mean it's up there with one of the good ones for me, actually, if I'm being honest.
Good. I completely agree. I love the song. I do love the wordplay, and that is definitely something that has been one of your signatures as well over the years. Is that kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing for you, like seeing kind of like an Easter egg? Will people get it?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I love that I love when I put those things in songs and they don't get it for a while.
Right.
And I'll have folks that I've known for years go, "Oh man, I was just listening to this and I've never really listened to that part where you say this." And all of a sudden it was like, "Holy shit, this is what he's saying." And so,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, those are fun little things. I assume that's probably what filmmakers, when they put little Easter eggs in and then somebody notices it, it's that's a fun thing for me. I think for me, really, the song's written and the lyrics are written, and then I don't realize it's an Easter egg till the band starts to track it, and like nobody says anything about it, because usually if there's a really funny line or like that somebody will go, oh, that's funny, and not laugh because they're used to me, and which actually when Chris Burney heard I Want to Be Brad Pitt from the last Bowling for Soup record, he thought it was the funniest thing ever. But yeah, I it's that's sort of when it starts to hit me that, oh man, it's not obvious, that people are gonna have to work to get that one. So, uh, but yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, Curtis Grimes is really good at that double word play. I love listening to his songwriting because he always does that kind of stuff as well. It's so cool
Yeah.
when songwriters put that kind of stuff in there. And then as a listener, like when you catch on, you're like, oh, I wonder if he meant that. And then so that's where
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
inquisitiveness comes from for podcasting. Like I just
You
started
know
doing
how
this
I am
because
about and don't worry about time because now I'm having a blast. But do you know how I am about songs? Like if I like the songwriter a lot, like I especially if it's like a heartfelt song, if like I'm picturing and I'm like, oh shit, man, he meant this. Like this is real. Like I will never investigate it or ask because I don't want to know that it's not real. Like
yeah.
and if I find out, like I'm a huge Frank Turner fan. I mean, he's one of my buddies, but I have him tattooed on my hand, and which is funny because like if you have a friend and you're just like every time I'll just go, oh, and there's I have you tattooed on my hand, and it's right there, and
Until
and
he does the same for you, you're one up, right?
yeah, totally. But I found out that this song of his wasn't real, like, and I was crushed. Like I wanted it to be true so bad, and so like I just try not to even research anything or ask anybody stories or anything about songs because it just crushes me.
Well,
And
that's
that's
certainly the risk you take for asking. That's for sure.
well, people ask me all the time. Like they'll just be like, "Hey, who's Nona and Girl the Bad Guys What?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's just a made up, thing like that. That song's not even about Nona. It's about the dude who, it's really about the guy who listens to the rap metal. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's that she's a bonus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a friend named Lauren Alexander who's a songwriter from Tyler, and she has a song called Wildflower. Who like it's just a beautiful song, and I thought it was an introspection thing where she's calling herself the wildflower and calling herself out for bad behavior. And boy, was I wrong. Golly.
Love it.
So yeah, last segment with Jaret Reddick. This is kind of the wrestling segment. I call it "Who do you think you are?" And it's usually the hardest question for an artist to answer. and that is,
Okay.
who is Jaret Reddick?
Jaret Reddick is a father from North Texas who who set out with with his best friends on the planet to really just escape, a life that was not going the way that he thought it would go, and all of a sudden his dreams came true.
Amazing. I don't ever ask a question after this segment, but I'm gonna. Was there a validation point? Was there an event somewhere in there that said, "Man, Jaret, you've done all right"? Something that was self verifying for you.
Yeah, you know, I think all of us would probably say the Grammy nomination, uh, because that it's like getting a doctorate. Like we're always going to be Grammy nominated Bowling for Soup, and it really like we weren't super successful when that happened. It was 2003. Girl of the Bad Guys What was a hit overseas, but it was barely hanging on here in the states. And our I think all of our parents were still looking at us like, hey, what is going on? Are you guys going to ever get jobs? And kind of thing. And that that happened, and all of a sudden we're in People magazine, and our grandmothers are at the beauty salon showing their friends and stuff. And
Yeah.
so that's definitely up there. I think the other one that I say all the time is that same album. And we went to, back when people bought CDs, we went to the Virgin Megastore in London, Piccadilly Square, and we walked in, and we were the end cap. Right when you walked in, it's
Wow.
just Bowling for Soup, and it's this tower of just that album cover, and it was like, oh my god, like you can't explain what that feels like, and so
Wow.
there's been so many things like that, but those are sort of just the two that I feel like, like those are sort of the two where I just looked around and I was like, okay, well, if this is how far we go, then man, this is cool. We've got
Yeah.
stuff to talk about forever.
That's amazing. So, man, Jaret Reddick has a brand new single out. It's called "Lone Stars," right? And
Yep.
it's at all the Texas radio. I always say request it everywhere. And if you can request it at a reggae station, I want somebody out there to show me proof that you've done that. Call a reggae station and ask for "Lone Stars" by Jaret Reddick. I
Yeah.
just want to see if they'll play it. We've actually had that happen one time where somebody called a reggae station and a Texas country song was played on there. It was pretty dope.
I love it. I
So where
love it
can
so
people
much.
follow along with the journey, man? What's all your social medias?
Man, just come to jaretrayreddick.com. But honestly, if you just follow me on Instagram, Facebook, I'm JARET2113 everywhere, except except for TikTok. I'm just Jaret Reddick, and I'm super active. I'm pretty good about responding, and so I would love to have you guys all along. But tickets and merch, JaretRayReddick.com.
And his handle is on the screen, so you guys can see that. I will put all of his the web page, a link to the single, all of that stuff in the description down below. So make sure you're following along with everything Jaret has going on. And thanks for watching another amazing episode of 10 Minutes with Boston Chris. Guys, what a great, candid conversation with Jaret today. Man, what a great honor it was to talk to Jaret for almost an hour today. I want to thank Jennifer Redding for setting up this opportunity with us here at the Boston Chris Show. And man, what an honor. I really appreciated the time we got with Jaret, even though he wasn't feeling good. He's just got home from Ireland. He's got all these shows lined up in Texas as well, doing radio for the single. Just a super busy guy, and I really appreciate his time and his trust in allowing me to interview him today. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Again, make sure you're following along with everything Jaret has going on. He's at Jaret2113 everywhere except TikTok, where he is at Jaret Reddick. Of course, you can find Bowling for Soup everywhere. Just Google Bowling for Soup. And I appreciate y'all tuning in. With us, you can find me anywhere at Boston Chris TTK. We're the Boston Chris Show on, I think, Twitter, or not Twitter, but Twitch and YouTube. We stream live often. I appreciate you guys watching or listening, and I'll catch you down the road.